Good morning, staff. Welcome to the President's State of the University Address and the beginning of a new academic year. I'd like to extend a special welcome to executive officers, deans, and any faculty or students in attendance today. Past Chair Justin Daniels, he set the bar high with great speeches, so I knew I had big shoes to fill. But then I caught the Faculty Senate address yesterday, and I was a bit surprised to realize that I have more to say than Dr. Hambright and Dr. Hayek. My name is Heather Todd. I'm the Executive Director of Operations in the Dodge Family College of Arts and Sciences. It's my honor to serve as your Staff Senate Chair for the 2022-23 year. The start of the year is always a special time on our campus, with new students and colleagues, new research and scholarship, and exciting conversations about strategic planning. As we enter this academic year, I'll work to ensure that Staff Senate can continue to be a vital service to you. We will strive to work together to address the needs of all of our constituents along with faculty and administration. The Staff Senate is a place to share ideas, a place where often these ideas and discussions begin the process of change. It takes all of us working together to make things happen. Please know you can reach out to any of your campus senators or myself if you have any questions or need any assistance. More information about Staff Senate is available on the webpage. I'd like to take a moment to express our thanks to our university administration and the Board of Regents for approving the new paid parental leave benefits eligible employees policy. And also for removing the requirement to use 2 PTO days during winter break. A special thank you to the Staff Senate Initiatives Committee, who worked hard on the research and proposal of the paid parental leave policy for a couple of years. And I have to take a moment to thank Dorothy Anderson. Staff Senate exec has been appreciative of the monthly meetings we have with her since she began at OU as Chief Human Resources Officer. We've been able to keep topics in front of her that are key to staff, and she keeps us updated on the progress. Thank you for this partnership with Staff Senate and HR leadership team. And to all staff, thank you. Thank you for all of your hard work and dedication to the University of Oklahoma. This is an exciting time in the life of our university as we engage the opportunities and challenges facing higher education. And we do so with a bold and achievable university strategic plan that is also closely aligned with the strategic plans of all of our colleges. Thank you to each one of you for your important contributions and your extraordinary dedication. I'm honored to be a part of such a remarkable and talented community. When I started at OU 17 years ago, I never thought I'd be standing here as your Staff Senate Chair, about to introduce the president of our university. Anybody who knows me knows I'm not one to shy away from talking and speaking my mind. But I thought if I'm going to have a voice, then I want to share my ideas and perspectives in a place where they can be most effective. And I think the most effective place is the Staff Senate environment. I encourage all of you to challenge yourself and embrace opportunities without hesitation. Share your ideas, mentor and empower those around you. Get involved and serve. If someone is struggling, be the one to stop and listen and help them. If you think someone's doing a great job, you should recognize and celebrate their efforts. Always remember, we change lives. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce the president of the University of Oklahoma, Joseph Harris, Jr. He has served the university for over 26 years in various leadership roles and was named the 15th president of OU in May 2020. Please join me in welcoming him.
Thanks, Heather, and thanks to all of you all for joining us. I brought the wrong speaking notes. I came here and assumed that this was another Justin Daniels award ceremony. And so everything I have here is wrong. Hey, it is. I couldn't resist because most of them are for you. Yeah, it is. It is. And I know there are a lot of individuals that are here also via Zoom. and welcome to you all. It's always strange to be elevated on a podium with really flattering lighting. Whenever I've known most of you all for a really long time, as Heather said, 26 years here at the University of Oklahoma, and believe me, I didn't think I'd be in this role either. A couple of times I didn't think I'd be in this role. I like that one. One of the things I think is so important, you heard the beginning talking, and we're going to do a Q&A, and I'm going to speak for a few minutes before that, but the early applause lines about the accomplishments that have taken place and some of the good things that have happened, they're a product of this community, of us working together, and I think that's what's so important about it. And this is my fourth speech in this role, fourth one of these about the state of the university over the last 3 years. The math works, trust me. And it's been a remarkable time period in a lot of ways. 3 years ago, when I first gave one of these, it was this time that a lot of us that were here, all of us remember it starkly. Lots of drama was going on, lots of fear over positions being eliminated en masse, lots of scandal and drama. And then the next year, 2 years ago, we have a pandemic and no vaccine. And then a year ago, we had a vaccine, but the pandemic was still having some pronounced effects over how we manage it and try and live with the pandemic. And now we're at a place where we're living with it, and we have the vaccines and the boosters, but there's still some anxiety, but it does feel differently, at least to me and a lot of the people that I've been with. It feels like we're getting a lot closer to normal. I love the headline in the student paper when we came back, right? This idea that this almost feels normal. And to me, it's a really exciting time. So thank you for being here. And to get from there to here, what's taken place is to me remarkable cooperative leadership, right? And I'll be honest, I think Justin deserved over half the awards he received. So I'd say 14 of 26 he deserved is roughly the number. But as you look at it, I think about the individuals with whom I've worked in this role as staff Senate chair, and it is Justin, and it's Crystal Airy, and it's Sarah Connolly, and it's all of those who have participated. And at every time, it has been, and through all of this drama, at every turn, it's been the staff Senate leadership reaching out and asking, how can we help? Here's what we're hearing, and how can we work with this and through this together? And to me, it's a relationship that I lean on a lot. And I know that whenever those of us that carry the executive officer title try and think about problems that are presented to us, the idea and the engagement with the staff Senate exec is incredibly important. It's a real service, and we couldn't be more grateful. And those things that you applauded for are the product of a couple of things, right? One of those was when it was brought to me that we should get rid of those 2 days that don't make any sense of leave. I was like, that's a good idea. Somebody should do that. And to me, these came from the staff and in part from the faculty, and they were brought up through leadership to the staff Senate and then to remarkable professionals. That's one thing I really do want to highlight, and I appreciate Dorothy being called out. But I look around the room, and we have serious individuals in serious positions that are here to help a staff that has done and is doing remarkable things for a mission that is really special, right? This purpose of We Change Lives is really special. So to me, what we do deserves the level of talent we have, and I hope this level of communication and engagement continues. And the times that we're in are really remarkable. And before we go through, this is typically a time when you get up and you brag about the really great things that happened the past year, and I'm going to do that. But I first want to talk about context. I think before we can appreciate the state of the university today and where the university is going, we've got to talk about context, and it really matters. So going into the pandemic, we had had decades of the states, including Oklahoma, not investing in higher education. And so student tuition and fees continued to escalate, which we all know, well past any other indicator. And all of that was taking place at the same time, pre-pandemic. 30% of universities were losing money. Almost all had levered up their balance sheets and taken on a lot of debt. And we heard about a lot of that 3 years ago, 4 years ago here at OU. But we weren't the only ones, right? Higher education had fundamentally changed in America. And yet a lot of folks didn't want to recognize it. So you borrowed more money, and you lost money, and you kind of lived off of what happened before. And you increased tuition on students. A totally unsustainable model. And it's had dramatic impacts and effects. And they're nationwide. So even pre-pandemic, and Jeff Bolanek doesn't have these numbers, I do. Right? The number of individuals that were going from high school to college had declined by 2.5 million people. Now, that's a big number. How do you contextualize that? In Oklahoma, if you look at the past 10 years, we know that the total population has grown. But in Oklahoma, which is indicative of the rest of the country, today, as compared to 10 years ago, there are 65,000 fewer students in higher education. So more than the entire student bodies of Oklahoma State, of OU, and then throw in UCO, have disappeared from college in Oklahoma. And that's a national trend. And there are other headwinds that are out there about higher education and the confidence in it. Right? When you look at it, there are 10%. Right? There's been a 10% drop in the individuals that would say college is worth it. And when you look at those 45 years and younger, this is the last depressing stat, and then we'll go forward. When you look at if you look at those under 45 years of age, 4 out of 10 say that the cost of college wasn't worth it. So as we think about where we are today and where we're going, I think it tells us a couple of things. First, it contextualizes the fact that, yes, we've gone through a lot of change. But for us to deliver on the promise of higher education, we have to be both excellent and affordable, and we have to deliver what is actually needed and is affordable. Right? Excellence at an affordable cost. And when we talk about what a great university is, I would contend that you have to take out immediately all of those institutions that are unaffordable. Right? I mean, the great promise, right? The great promise is that if you have the talent and you have the drive, that you can pursue an education in college at a comprehensive research university. It's not true in most places. What's amazing is the work that's been done here. And some of those statistics we don't lay out there that I think are really important is that when you look at, is that promise true for Oklahomans? Right? We had an out-of-state increase. So going back to the last 4 years, we had no tuition and fee increases for 3 years. Then we had a 2.75% increase. And then this year, it was proposed in-state, out-of-state, became only out-of-state. When you look at the cost, after we discount, after we find scholarships, the cost for an Oklahoma student, on average, to go to OU is lower than it was 5 years ago. And we're meeting that need where it is, and we know the need could not be greater. And we're providing excellence, and we're striving in our strategic plan to be AAU status, and that matters, and we'll talk about more of that in a minute. But it's a remarkable time. Every institution in Oklahoma of higher education besides OU and OSU over the last 10 years has had a 30% on average decrease in the number of students they have. It's not viable or sustainable. So, and coming into the last 3 years, over the previous 10 years, OU had been down 2%, and OSU a similar amount. So, we know that as part of what we have to do, we have to grow. Right? That's how that's how we achieve excellence. Right? Is through structured and considered growth. And we look at it, it's remarkable. We just had our second, and this is Jeff Bolanek and his team and their staff and all of those involved in recruiting, which is all of us. Right? We had our second record freshman entering class, 4,706, right? Which is absolutely remarkable. against those headwinds and the ones that are coming, because we know in 2025 there'll be a 15% decrease on top of this nationwide in terms of those going to college. But it's remarkable. And when we think about the promise that universities should give that most do not give or execute on, our numbers are stunning. This year's freshman class is the most qualified academically, right? The median student, a 3.67 GPA. We talked about the size. 39%, a record 39% of our students identify as minority. And 25.4%, Jeff couldn't get that last tenth. Right? Over a quarter of the students are the first in the history of their families to go to college. Right? I mean, like, that is the one that gets me out of bed, right? This idea that what we're doing is changing lives at the individual level, because we know the facts about a college degree. We know how it changes the life of that individual and their family and those around them. The numbers are very clear. Lifetime earnings, health care, all those things that attach to it. Right? And then it changes the community. Right? And it serves as the bedrock and foundation of the ability to continue our democracy by having engaged, educated students that graduate from here. So to me, it's an exciting time. We look around some of the other headlines that are out there. The budget issue, these rooms were packed a few years ago because it was like, hey, right? And it was, you could feel the tension. I couldn't walk across campus 3 or 4 years ago without being asked the question, right, what train wreck's happening next? What cuts are happening next? A lot of work's been done. And I don't know if Stuart Birkinshaw is here today, but he and that team deserve a whole lot of credit. But we are in very good financial shape. We are in a place where we are not losing money, right? We're in a place where we're being disciplined, where we have not 1-year budgets, but 5 to 7 year forecasts. We have a capital budget. We're doing crazy, crazy financial things like budgeting to replace dorms that were built in the 60s. That's right. This is the kind of visionary leadership you get with this team. Someone was like, hey, the students love Cross. And I'm like, really? Really? I lived in Johnson, in Adams Tower, so I get it. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to go through the details. I want to be mindful of the Q&A time. But when we look at where we are in terms of our budget and the stability, it's really encouraging. And most importantly, right, you have to be financially stable. But then the question is, how do you react to this changed environment around higher education? Where are you going? Because if we stay stagnant, we will be disrupted and eliminated. It's just that true. Being a comprehensive research university, right, we all have to understand why both of those aspects are so critical, that we're differentiated by being a research university, right? That increasingly the jobs are knowledge-based, and our job is to provide not just the rote memorization, not just to dictate the education, but to teach them how to discover, how to do research, how to engage in unique and innovative creative activity, and to be a part of that. We spend a lot of time making sure that we have those components that will allow us to prosper. And it starts off with the strategic plan that I know y'all are tired of hearing about, but I'm going to keep talking about it. Right? It matters. I had an individual who's a great donor to the university who I was speaking to last week, and they called up and they were like, all right, I have this great idea, Joe. I'm going to give $1 million to OU, but I want it to go into the president's discretionary account. You can put it wherever you want, right? This is for you to direct. And my answer was, sounds super cool, right? First of all, thank you, right? But second of all, like, there's no pet project. It's the strategic plan. That's the pet project. And I think it's so important for all of us as we think about our jobs and what we do. I think it's important to think about the purpose, right? We change lives. And then it's, okay, where do we fit in this strategic plan? And how are we a part of that? How do we drive that forward? And how do we execute on it in a way that achieves it, in a way that it remains affordable for the students, but it truly is excellent? And how do we do this in a way that we can scale across a really big university and its campuses? That part's the big trick. And I've received a huge education, not just in strategic planning, but how do you do this at scale? And how do we make sure that we have regular pay increases, we'll come back and talk about that in a minute, that are based upon how we're performing in our jobs, so that when we work hard and we accomplish those objectives, there's a reward there besides just self-satisfaction, right? You can't eat that. And so that's part of the focus and the goal is for us to not only have this articulated strategic plan, but then know how do we do this. And I'm sure you've been a part of conversations about KPIs and creating dashboards and how do we align the college level strategic plans. All of this matters because it's the only way to scale this. One of the questions that I'll be answering is about evaluations, right? It started off with they're arcane, and I was like, you are right. And we've got to change these things to move forward. So as I look at it, so many of the things that we have looked at and know need to be changed, we're now changing. And here's a good example of driving our strategic plan forward. We looked at fundraising. And this is one example. We're trying to do this across the institution. In fundraising, we looked at it, and I came in 3 years ago. I had a meeting with the fundraising staff, and the answer was that we're celebrating raising $117 million. Sounds like a lot of money, right? Who wouldn't want $117 million? Seems like a good number. I'd even buy a ticket for that. But the answer was, we looked at the 10-year average of how much we actually fundraised across our 3 campuses. And the 10-year average prior to 2 years ago, and this to me speaks to direct impact, was $134 million a year. Well, that sounds good, right? But compared to what? And what do we need to raise? And we hadn't had a major giving campaign. Major universities are supposed to have giving campaigns that begin and end, and then between the end of one and the beginning of the next shouldn't be more than 3 years, 3 to 4 years tops. Our last one ended in the year 2000, which is more than 3 years. That's right. I'm not a big math person either, but I did some work in preparation for this speech. Right? And so what did we do? It takes a few years to put together a launch of a major giving campaign. We brought in Amy Noah, who had done this before, right? We increased the resources for the staff around that. We adopted a best practice around it. And our number 2 years ago was a record $237 million before announcing a campaign, which we're yet to announce, but stay tuned. And then we just closed the books on June 30. And we went from a record $237 million to $317 million in terms of total dollars raised towards changing lives. And that is 100% putting our staff in a position to be successful, right? Putting them in a, Joey C's here, Castiglione's here, right? We're in athletic. Somebody asked when I walked in, oh, is Joe going to speak? And they were looking at him, which is so insulting. I might turn vindictive. This thing might take a weird turn up here. Justin Daniels and Joe Castiglione, you're not invited next time. So as we look across the institution, and we're looking at those areas of research, we know we have to move up towards AAU levels, towards being truly excellent in what we do. And those numbers are well ahead of pro forma. So we're 2 years into the strategic plan, and I'm 23 minutes into this talk, so I got to move more quickly. And we are seeing a lot of progress, a lot of initial progress. And there are people in this room, Dr. Belinda Hypolite, who's here. I'm not going to start calling folks out. IT work, David Horton, doing remarkable and stunning work. I loved going this year, a total restructure the last 2 years by student affairs staff, right? Led by Dr. David Surratt, a complete restructure of how we bring students into the university, right? One of the pillars is making sure it's a place of belonging for all and not just some. And we came in to welcome the new freshman class. There were 4,500 of them, of the 4,700 or so, that were a part of a completely changed Camp Crimson orientation to the university. So regardless of where you come from, right, do you feel like you can hopefully connect? I mean, these are the things being done at scale at this university that help realize, because we know if you feel like you belong, that you do better, that you achieve, and you accomplish the goals we have for the individuals. And quite frankly, it serves society by making us feel more connected in an unbelievably divided world. So to me, that is, it's exciting. Where are we going? We know where we're going. We have a plan for the future. And a part of this is making sure that we put in place the appropriate recognition and rewards. A part of this is making sure we're able to understand how we're really doing. And not just so we can get up here and give good speeches about, or adequate speeches about good news, right? I caught that too. Right? But because, when we have to know when we are succeeding and failing. And we shouldn't greet failure as though it's a negative. Right? We're going to, along this path, make missteps. But we have to be in a position to know how we're really doing. As a leadership team, we weren't looking in a focused way at any single document over what is our students' experience like. And so you may have seen some Herculean work done to put together a student satisfaction survey that went out after spring break. Right? We have to know how our students are doing so we can adjust what we're doing. The same thing for the experiences of staff and faculty. We have to know how we're doing. We have to augment the representative bodies by additional data that tells us how we're doing. And so as we think about our future, we know what that plan looks like, and we're seeing remarkable results. And we can see the impact around here. And my hope is that we're in a place to continue to communicate in a way where we understand what's being felt, where we understand what's being accomplished, and where we're falling short, so we can adjust and move forward from there. Right? That's the goal. We are in a disrupted environment for higher education. If anybody's plan at any university is to stay stagnant, they will not make it. They will not make it. And the consequences of higher education not making it, right, of public research universities not making it, right, are catastrophic. Right? Literally, this very democracy depends upon it. Right? Our ability to understand and speak to people not like ourselves is a skill not being taught or learned with great enough frequency. Right? We've worked towards our first-year freshman experience classes here with the idea that we are going to understand people not like ourselves because it's in our best interests financially, emotionally, and in having a stable democracy. And so what we do here every day is not kind of important. It's not really important. It's essential to the individuals and to us. And as I look around, I could go through a lot longer list of accolades. And there are those that are really listening. One thing I want to bring up, I know it's been the practice for the last 25 years for the university president to go after the legislature for not doing enough in terms of funding for higher ed, and we're still among the lowest on a per capita basis. But what we've seen is we've told this story the last 2 years. And if you don't know them, Sean Burridge, Holly Hunt, all those involved in telling the story. I haven't mentioned Andre yet, but Andre is doing a remarkable job as our provost. But we're doing a better job of telling the story about how important to an economy a university is. The largest specific provision from the state legislature to the University of Oklahoma prior to the last 2 years was a $22 million special appropriation in 2002 to complete the National Weather Center. We look at the numbers from this past legislative session. The numbers themselves are stunning. Between the three campuses, there was, and I'm rounding off here, but $37 million appropriated specifically to OU, including another $20 million, interestingly enough, for the expansion of the National Weather Center, but also for areas like engineering, for nursing in those areas. And then on top of that, $47 million more out of the CARES Act dollars. So when we tell our story the right way, right, when we explain how important we are to the individual, to workforce development, right, you may have heard about the Polytech we're going to launch up in Tulsa, responding directly to the workforce needs that are out there. When we talk about how important it is that we deliver affordable health care and available health care to our citizens and the role that we play in that, the story resonates. Right? For a lot of us, and I'm pointing the finger at me. I've got to do a better job of telling our story. But I do want to say, as I wrap up my comments here, that the story is it's not compelling. It's beyond that. It's a profound story, and I have been around here for a long time. I know exactly how fortunate I am to work here, and I know how fortunate and what my obligations are that come with that for being the university president. One of my speeches to students, especially students leaders, is that with every opportunity comes an obligation. I'm well aware of mine, and I'm grateful for this position. I know how hard everyone is working to realize the dreams that we have collectively for our students, and I'm honored to be a part of it. So thank you.
I'll start off with our first question. Safety and security on college campuses has been a significant discussion throughout the summer following the shooting event in Uvalde, Texas. What measures can be taken or are being taken on our campus to ensure the safety of our staff, faculty, students, and visitors?
Yeah, it's just terrifying. It's when I was general counsel here, and the first massacre on school grounds that I can recall being a part of was trying to dissect what happened at Virginia Tech with the student Cho, and we've had our own instances here. The individual that was blown up by a device in his own backpack outside of the stadium, and I was one of two people that was outside of the stadium. Larry Naphy, who's here, Joe Castiglione was inside the stadium. Campus safety and concern in the classroom, in stadiums, around campus. Ever since the clock tower in Texas, right? All of this has been top of mind. I've had it's top of mind for me. Chief Tarver, the chiefs on the other two campuses as well. All of those involved with public safety. We are doing tabletops. We're doing exercises. Game day operations committee focuses on this. We're going to have a new presence that will be seen and probably talked about at the football games around additional security for how we handle that. So we know the obligation is to provide as high level of protection as we can. We know that ownership of firearms is everywhere, and for us, a lot of it is not. We attempt to, and we formed this years ago, but there's a group that some folks may not know a lot about, but there are two committees. One is the Behavioral Intervention Team, BIT, and the other is TARC, which is the Threat Assessment and Review Committee. And both of those are an effort by the university to collect information on campus. If you see something, say something. And then if there is, and then try and get the resources around that situation and that individual to try and prevent acts of violence from occurring. To me, I think when this started, we were pretty much on the cutting edge of this. We continue to have these teams meet. They meet with frequency. And so if an individual is acting in a way that seems aberrant or off or concerning, we have that behavioral intervention team that can respond to it. If it's elevated, if there's a concern there actually is a threat that's about to be present or could become present, then the TARC does that. And it's populated by those leaders in the community that are best able to handle this, including mental health. And how do we address this? And most of the time, one of the big steps is to get the individual help. But when there's a perceived threat, we have an emergency operations team that's available for that. So there's nothing that is perfect and can stop any crisis. It is the top of mind fear that we have. We spend a lot of time educating and drilling. I went through my refresher just a couple weeks ago on my NIMS training, the emergency response training. So it continues to be thought about, fortified, training. Nothing's perfect, but the resources being dedicated to this are increasing and I think important, and it spans everything from how do you eliminate a threat once it's occurred with the tragedy we saw in Uvalde to how do you get in front of it in an effort to try and prevent that from happening. And, we've learned the lesson over and over again, which is in so many instances, an individual was exhibiting behavior that was of real concern. And those warning signs weren't caught. They weren't communicating. So to me, some of the best prevention is having a communication around our campuses and with local law enforcement in a way that we can hopefully get in front of a threat before it occurs. But it is one that is an ever-present threat and concern.
Thank you.
Now that the university has completed the Mercer study and updated job titles for staff, what information did you draw from this study? What's the average COMPA of staff? Is OU competitive with the local market? And if not, what are the next steps to make OU competitive?
Yeah, that felt like 4 questions.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It was just
right. You can call it a question, but it's 4. And I'm going to choose one of those to answer.
There you go.
Right. Yeah, I think that's fair. Right.
Well, the questions came from staff. We got to ask them all.
Right. The second only to the statement question, right?
Right.
Right. Like, was there a question there? There are 4 here, which is great. So top of mind for everybody is compensation. And I didn't address it very much up there because I knew it would be a question that would come up because it's the first question that we always get and should get. Step 1 is you need to hire a real professional who truly understands it to run HR. And Dorothy Anderson has only been here a short while, but her impact's been incredible. An impressive career at University of New Mexico doing this. And she was mentioned in the opening comments because she's earned it. And we're seeing a real professionalism that's coming in here. The first hire that she wanted to make and that I approved was someone to be in that compensation role full-time. So we had somebody full-time inside of the university whose dedicated job is to look at and handle compensation. The Mercer study, as a lot of us who have lived with it know, was essentially to make sure the job categories met the individual and that we could then make sure that those levels of pay for those categories were within the market range. That does not answer 2 of the 4 questions in there. That is the first step. And so the next steps will be to go through and engage in that deeper analysis. And I think that's inexorably tied with the reality that we have to all just own, which is over the last 10 years, we've not had regular pay programs. And so there's been compression, there's been inversion, and there's not much more painful than that when you're working side by side with somebody who came in after you, who's making more money for the same job. And so we have to be able to address that. Now, once it's studied, can we address all of it in 1 year? No, we can't. But we can develop the information so we know what the right data is and address these in a systematic way over a number of years. And it's interesting. So this year, I know we all looked at the 3% across the board increase. And one of the comments that was made by the regents is that this is the last year they're going to be approving any raises that aren't merit-based. So part of what we have to do is get better about what is merit, what's inside of that, how do we develop it for the faculty side and the staff side, and Dorothy is working in earnest on that. It really is the largest project, especially on the faculty side, that Andre has to get done because we got to get this done in time to have the next pay program. Now, how does this work from a budgetary standpoint? So Norman campus, each 1% increase in pay is $4.6 million every year. And so when we look at the strategic plan and the budget around that, you've got to be honest about what's working and what's not working. And I think a large parts of it are working really well. But the miss in it is we had programmed in the strategic plan budget 2 things that aren't right. One of those is we got a pay program every other year. And what's crystal clear is that that's not frequent enough. And we're going to have to address that. Now, that means we've got to find those dollars somewhere in the budget because they're not in it right now. But we know we have to do this. And so we're endeavoring to assess through HR the next step beyond the Mercer study and then put in place a new set of standards for what is merit and what goes into that, which we have to get the board to approve. The other miss in the strategic plan is we had budgeted a 3% increase for out-of-state students and in-state students this year, and only one part of that got approved. And so there is a $4 million miss there in the budget as well. All things we can work with, but I want to be open and transparent that we know we have to have more raises. We know it can't be just every other year. It has to be something we can count on, and we've got to be open and transparent about how we're going to pay for it. Now, good news is we had a big student body this year, big class coming in. We have to attract them and retain and grow. So let's talk about the budget. Since you asked a few, I'm going to give a few answers.
You'll get around to all of
it. Right. So if you look at the budget, I mean, look, to me, when we think about budgets, let's take Norman Campus specifically. What's inside of that $1 billion budget, right? What are those categories? I think to understand where we are, where we're going, and what's possible, we have to understand what the budget is comprised of. So, $1 billion budget, the big numbers are, call it $360 million is student tuition and fees. All right, $75 to $80 million is housing for students and food for students, housing and food services. All right, so we're almost at half of that $1 billion number. There's $225 million-ish, which is sponsored grants and contracts and other external awards, and there's $120 million from the state through appropriations. And then there's athletics, which is roughly $175 million. And we're one of the few places in the country where athletics is not subsidized by the students' tuition and fee dollars. And the move to the SEC, there were two drivers that were critical for that, and one of those was to sustain that as long as possible. And it would have ended in 26 or 27 had we not made that move. But those are the big budget pieces that are in there. And so when we talk about how do we grow the pie? How do we not just cut our way to success, because we know we can't achieve excellence and affordability by cutting our way to success? The answer is have a lot of communication about what's in the budget, have a knowledge that we're doing things pretty well right now, and we have to keep on doing those. And I had a question yesterday in the meeting with the faculty over some of the changes in PACs, and thought it was a good question. I think it's illustrative of how we're trying to approach this, which is we saw efficiencies that could occur. We saw some duplication. We saw some colleges, some programs that would fit better in other colleges. A good example was aviation. Right? Aviation was in PACs, had an aging fleet, and we had twice as many students wanting to get in as we could let in, and it actually helps the students. There's a huge market out there for pilots, and yet we're not meeting it. So we spun that out out of PACs into atmospheric and geographic sciences. Really good, exciting new plan around that where we can increase the number of students we're going to bring in, modernize the fleet. But there were a few individuals that in that role didn't have a job. And so what do you do with those? Do you just throw a riff out there and eliminate? No. What took place then was a thoughtful exercise over a reasonable time period to try and get those individuals to find jobs within the institution through attrition. And so, as we think about how do we make sure we have fair pay, and that we're meeting the realities like 8% inflation right now. How do we address that? It impacts the individual employees. It impacts the institution, right, through higher costs for energy and all the things that affect us at home. And so, the answer is to be really open about it. We have a chance to grow. We have areas like online. That was raised yesterday as well. Online, it is the only thing in our plan that's a strategy and a tactic. It's a strategy because that's how we educate, and more education, the better to those to upskill and to have better lives and to help other people. And it also is a tactic because it produces revenue we can use for our strategic plan. And this year we hit a record. We've gone now to 3,100 students in online. Size of the Health Science Center campus is about 3,500. So we're producing another campus that's online. So when we think about how do we make sure that we have the right level of staff and faculty, how do we make sure pay is reasonable and fair, it's a process of disciplined review, open communication, and a regular pay plan that individuals know where it's coming from and that it's thoughtful. And it's going to require additional changes. We're not, can't just sit up here and say, we're going to have regular pay increases. That model doesn't work unless we make other changes and we grow. And so a lot of how we're approaching this is how do we grow, right? Over the past 10 years, being down 2% in terms of number of students doesn't work. And so we're up the last 2 years in terms of freshman class. We're going to work on retention. We're going to look on growing the enterprise as a whole. And I'm optimistic. Things like moving to the SEC, that helps in lots of ways, including recruiting more students to the university. So it all fits together, and we know that we have to have more work done on alleviating compression and inversion that's out there and rewarding the remarkable performance that's going on. That was a long answer.
Sorry, it was long questions.
Halfway through, I was like, this is too long, but I was already there.
Stick with it.
I didn't know what to do. I panicked, I'll be honest. Right? I kind of blacked out. Right? I saw a couple of you all do the same thing, and I'm like, I know. I'm feeling the same way. I don't know what to do next. All right, but I'm done. We can go to the next question. Yeah.
I think I have 2 questions in mind, so it's a little easier than others.
Let me ask you, before you heard that answer, how many questions did you have? Like 8?
No, I looked. I was like, oh, okay. I only have 2. It seems that some of the job postings and hiring processes are taking extremely long, and that this may cause the university to miss out on some very well-qualified staff who will need to move on to other positions at organizations which can hire quicker. What are the university's plans to streamline these processes and ensure we are able to continue to attract the top talent? Second question, what other measures?
I love that you're signposting for me. Just to be clear,
I'm trying to help you. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Right.
What other measures are the university taking to attract top candidates to open jobs as candidate pools are very low?
Yeah. Really, really important questions, and it's so much more fun answering this than 3 years ago, right? I mean, this question is how can we hire more quickly, and 3 years ago it was who's going to get cut next. So it's a love this question for a lot of reasons. So one of the things that you know, and I know you don't just look at one service, but I love the fact that Forbes named us a top 50 employer in the United States, and that we were ranked the #1 employer in Oklahoma. That's like a huge credit to everyone that works here, because that's not created by a few leaders that are paid highly. It's created by a culture that's at an enterprise, and so really proud of that. And it has had more individuals applying, which is great, especially in the labor market where we're at historic unemployment rates. So the ability to get talent and get it quickly, to the point of the first question, is incredibly important. And at a big enterprise, it sometimes is difficult. I mean, you inherently have to go through some processes to post a job, especially when you're a public employer and you have all those pesky state laws that, kind of guidelines, really. That's right. That's a takeaway from this, right? President calls laws guidelines. But we've been working on this, and Dorothy, with whether you call it employment or talent management or acquisition, it's critical. We know for us to be who we want to be, we have to have talent as quickly as possible, and they have options. And one of the big challenges has been how do we adopt to a COVID endemic environment where we know the nature of work has changed. And there are new realities to that. So if someone's remote working and they're remote working from out of state, then there are tax issues that attach to that are unique. So Dorothy's doing her best to drag me out of the dark ages. And we're working on how do we, the nature of who we hire, how we hire, and to do so in a way where we're getting quality applicants. There are some positions, especially at a university, where there are unique skill sets that really do have unique needs. And so if we're trying to hire for a position that are in really high demand, we now occasionally need to reach out to outside search groups to help us, because for all the postings that take place automatically out of HR, there are some where we have to go to them. They're not going to come to us. And we know when they're not with us in the workplace how much they're missed, because their job's critical, and when they're not there and we can't find somebody else, it's frustrating to us. And so I feel it. Some of this is baked in, not all of it. There'll always be some steps we have to take that private employers do not, but we're trying to make it as efficient as we can and give those tools over to hiring managers so that they know that they can move more quickly in certain instances And sometimes moving more quickly means not just posting it to the 3 typical websites, but also getting additional help in locating and identifying that talent. So it's a tricky labor market, but I like it better than 3 years ago. And it's really daunting. I mean, the Health Science Center is a great example. I mean, the nursing workforce shortage is just stunning. And I mean, traveling nurses, the rate you pay for nurses that aren't employed by you, it used to be $35 an hour. And at the Health Science Center, where we have a lot of specialized nurses, the rate peaked at $230 per hour. And it became such that you couldn't open up all of your. And so what do we do? Our provost of the Health Science Center, our new one, Gary Raskob, we immediately said, we've got a school of nursing. What if we took every possible applicant that was qualified, which resulted in a 92% increase in class size in 1 year? So we have some control over how do we supply a workforce, and we've got to be smarter about hiring our own as well. Come out. All right, that was a long answer too.
So the university has been searching for an ombudsperson. I know I had to Google what an ombudsperson was. I didn't know what it was. I didn't realize we had somebody in that position in the past.
Can you say it 3 times fast?
Ombudsperson, ombudsperson, ombudsperson.
Boom. How about that? You actually did.
I brought my cheering squad, you know. Can you explain how staff may benefit from this position and what services they'll offer?
Well, everyone's going to be so happy here. We won't need this position. It'll be obsolete in a matter of weeks.
Great.
Right. So don't worry about it. So they're super helpful in conflict resolution. An ombudsperson, first of all, be a cool business card to have. I might make one for myself because it sounds cool. But you know, an ombudsperson's job is to augment, not replace, the resources that already exist for dealing with conflict in the workplace and difficulties that we have in our work lives. And so, you know, if there is an issue around issues that do occur, right, concerns over sexual harassment or concerns about, right, you know, these areas, we still have the key offices for. None of that's decreased. An ombudsperson is not to replace it, but to be there to help catalyze it. Not just the referrals and finding it, but also as a neutral person that can help mediate and hopefully moderate disputes that occur. And so it really is someone that can be a resource to all of us when something's not being handled. It might not rise to a specific office's expertise, but it's still causing conflict or anxiety in the workplace. And an ombudsperson, they can be a resource to help with that. And so this is one of those areas where we heard from, in this case, it was the faculty senate that said we feel like some conflicts aren't being resolved, and this might be a useful tool that a lot of top universities have. And so this is the product of that. And Sean Burge, who I was bragging on earlier, that person will work with Sean directly, and if they don't resolve the issue, it's Sean's fault.
Now, the real trick is ask Rhonda to say ombudsperson.
Right, exactly.
Heather had that question because I'm like, I'm going to mess it up. So,
Yeah.
so I was really good. I have one question.
One question?
One question,
All right,
yeah.
fine.
What impact could we see for the entire OU community and City of Norman from joining the SEC?
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. You know, for those who went to the OU Nebraska game last year and all the excitement that was there, I mean, that's how it's going to feel. Every game's going to be a big game and a big event. And I'm on a working group with a number of folks, Brian Holderreed and Joe Castiglione and others that are in this room, with the City of Norman over how do we prepare the City of Norman for what's going to be happening when we move to the SEC. And it's a different scale than we've been used to so far. It will attract a lot of people and a lot of excitement and a lot of opportunity. And so what we expect to see, and I know we'll see it, some of these things are in the work, is a next level experience for those that attend the games, but those that do not as well. And so, you know, we have to make sure the things like the roads and the ways to get in and out are all there, but I think it's going to exceed a lot of expectations over how big and important and profound this is. It causes us to up our game. It causes the city to up its game. And I think we're going to see a lot of our strategic, you know, you think about athletics, and one of the questions a lot of folks will say that haven't had a chance to think deeply about it is, okay, so athletics, so what? Well, if you look at our strategic plan, you see how important it is, right? This idea of, in lots of ways, but certainly the way that we feel like we belong to an institution, so much of that is tied to an affinity. And athletics is a huge component of that affinity. And it's a lot of fun. But so as we think about the move to the SEC, it is both athletic, right, and academic. It will drive our admissions, our number of students here north, right? It creates an opportunity to catalyze our strategic plan, not just by avoiding having to supplement the athletics budget and being able to remain as one of the few that don't do that, but by elevating the opportunity for us to grow our research, to grow the number of students that are here, to attract those to OU. So it is a really important moment, and I think we're going to see a lot flow from that certainly transcends and flows from athletics towards the other endeavors of the university. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I could sit here and talk all day long, so I feel like I need a time check to make sure I'm not causing one more question.
We've got another hour and a half.
Okay. Sorry, Stacy, you've been overruled.
Is that not the worst nightmare when you're sitting? You're like, listen, I was told 1 hour and I'm out. Right? That's why I always sit right there. This is a perfect spot, under the overhang back there,
Yeah.
where
can't really
you can't see them,
there.
so they can
No.
leave whenever they want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you and the executive leadership team have made great strides in improving the campus culture in your tenure. How else do you plan to improve the culture and overall campus morale?
I'm sorry, could you read the first sentence again? I'm kidding. No, that's
You
You.
and the executive leadership team.
Joe.
Joe.
Right. No. Look, I mean, the culture here is it's not like, a person. This is a culture is the product of all of us doing our jobs and feeling like we're valued and doing something valuable, and that hopefully when decisions occur, we know about it, or it's articulated in a way that's understood, and that we feel like we're doing something important, that the enterprise is important, and that we're important. I mean, that's what makes us feel, and then engage in successes collectively. I think that's it. And so I think that the way we continue to improve our culture is by being focused on those things, by saying we know our strategy, and every one of us knows where we fit in that strategy. Every one of us knows that when we go to work and we tell our loved ones we're leaving for the day and sometimes the night, that what we're doing is worthy of not being with them, that what we're doing matters, that what we're doing really does change lives. But we've got to feel that connection. I mean, it's I've got an event Friday evening, and taking my son to school today. He was like, "Oh, are we gonna do a thing, Friday?" And I was like, "I'll be a little late for it, right? I'm gonna be there, but I'm gonna be a little late. But what I'm doing, I really feel like matters." And so I think that's how you build a culture, so that all of us feel like we're a part of it. And it's been tough the last few years. I mean, we didn't get any breaks. And this summer is the first summer that, I see a lot of people, we actually have to take a vacation this summer. I mean, I went away for a week this summer, and I haven't done that. And everyone's been working night and day, and no one's felt the brunt of that more than our staff that didn't have the option of leaving campus whenever a lot of folks got to go remote. And so it's been exhausting, and it's been hard. And my hope is that in direct response to the question, how do we continue to elevate it? I think by being together more and not being literally and figuratively behind masks as much, that we're able to see in a way that's been tough the last 2 years what we're doing. We can walk. I walked across, Monday. I got up early and walked around before classes started to watch students looking for their classes, or more likely look at their phones for their classes. And it just felt great. Like I was walking across campus. This has happened the last 2 years, right? And I'm walking by, and 2 students go by, and one of them, you never know who doesn't know you or who knows you. It's weird when you're in this job. It's kind of creepy and odd when you're like, "Hi, good to see you." And I walk down there, and I see. Just saw Sean look at his watch. That means this is our last question. He's a truth teller. Anyway, I'm walking down there, and I kind of give this awkward nod to a student, like, and I hear him as he walks by. He doesn't know I can hear him, and he goes, "Hey, I just got a head nod from the president of the university." And I was like, my cup is full. Right? And then she says something which I couldn't hear. I didn't understand. But then I got the context for it, because then he goes, "Oh, he's the one, he's the old guy behind us in the white shirt with the bald back of his head." Which wasn't quite as cool. My cup was a little less full, but still mainly full. And I hope that as we, I hope that we continue to build our culture, because we continue to make progress. We continue to see ourselves in it, and we continue to be together in a way that wasn't possible the last few years. All right, that's all.
So I'll wrap it up to thanking all of you for joining us here in Meacham, and all of the ones on the live feed watching. Thanks for being with us.